and welcome back to my channel. This week I want to just talk a few minutes to you about our trip, my baby's first airplane ride, his first flight, and how that went, and my tips for flying with a baby. Now, disclaimer, I want to say that my baby is a big baby, so he's actually the size of like a year and a half old, but he was 9 months on our flight back. So he is a baby, even though he's almost the size of a toddler. Anyway, let me tell you first what we did and how we did our trip. Going to Texas, we actually had 3 seats. So he had his own seat. He had a seat by the window, and then I sat in the middle, and my daughter Chelsea sat on the end. We tried to do a rear-facing seat. But the seats were so small and so cramped that his car seat wouldn't fit rear facing. So we went ahead and did front facing. He did really good. He did good in the airport. He did good through security. Chelsea pushed him in his stroller the whole way, and our bags, we each had a bag, and so our duffel bags or our little travel bags were underneath the car seat or the stroller, and then she put the car seat, strapped it across the stroller and carried it. And then I was in a wheelchair. I always get a wheelchair because I can't walk that far. And so it went pretty smooth. We flew out of Orlando, and it went pretty smooth through security and all of that until we got to the gate. They let wheelchairs and people with babies on the plane first so they can get situated, so that worked out pretty good. So we went ahead and went onto the plane and got his car seat settled. It was a little stressful for me. I was trying to get it, and it was hard for me physically to like climb over it and find the seat buckle and all that. It was because it's such tight quarters, but I did get the seat put in and then got him strapped in. And then the flight went pretty well. When we got out, we didn't really have any issues. We went to departures or arrivals, and then my mom picked us up. When we left Texas, we flew into Atlanta, and we had more issues with the trip back. And the issues that we had was me and Chelsea had purchased big seats up front. Spirit Airlines has big seats that you can pay more. We paid $30 each more so that we could have the big seats. And they're big. They're even bigger than business class. They're like first class almost. They're just really big, roomy, fluffy seats. And you have a big space in between. There's only 2, and you have a big space. So there's just lots of room where we could kind of set him and bounce him and stuff like that. So I thought we'll be okay with not buying the 3rd seat if we have these 2 big seats. And we were in row 2, and so I thought this will work out. Well, there was some plane issues and some delays, and we ended up getting on a plane where only the first seat had those 2 seats. The 2nd seat was just a normal 3 seats, and it was stressful. It was very, very stressful. I was bawling. I was so stressed out because he was just so hard to handle on the way back. So anyway, that's kind of how it went, the trip-wise. Going was a lot easier than coming. So I learned some important things, and here are my tips. I would say I'll save my number 1 tip, and you probably already know what that is. But I will say there's a couple things leading up to that. I heard a lot of moms talk about making sure that they had a bottle on the way up when they were going up and coming down so that their ears didn't pop. I did try to give him his bottle going up, but he wasn't real consistent on wanting to take it. We actually did better with just watching Mickey. He didn't seem to have any problems with his ears. He didn't suck constantly though, so it didn't seem to be too much of a problem. But I did try to do that. But I would say still, that is definitely a tip. Do make sure that you have something to feed them, or something for them to suck on so that they can swallow and pop their ears. Definitely, worth doing it even if it's not needed. I would say my other big tip, something that I noticed, was you really need, if your child or toddler or baby is busy, and mine is busy. He doesn't want to sit still. He doesn't want to be held. He wants down. He wants to play. And so once going, he was strapped in his car seat, but he was a little fussy because there's quite a bit of time that passes from the time that you get on the plane, you get buckled in, and then everybody gets loaded and you actually taxi away from the gate and then actually go on the runway before you actually take off into the air. So I found that I had a lot of occupying to do. I had to occupy him. I had to hold the iPad. I had to, try to pacify him until we kind of got into the air. So I would say pay attention to that time that from you get on the plane to you actually take off. Because to me, that was kind of like, the time where I really had to occupy him, more so than even in the air. He fell asleep on the plane, so he did really well in the air. But I would say that time that you get on the plane till the plane's not moving and they're wanting out. If your baby's anything like my baby, he likes to move. So I would say that's a big thing. Make sure you've got something for them to do or watch or something on that downtime before you actually take off, or when you land and you've got all that time that you're taxiing back and you're having to pull to the gate and you have to wait on everybody to get off the plane. So pay attention to that time, those 2 time frames. There's really not a whole lot of tips other than that. I mean, just the normal things that you hear every person say that does a tip video. Snacks was great. Snacks that are not messy. Things that the little puffs that he can put in his mouth. Of course, electronics was a must. We had downloaded off iTunes his Mickey, so we had that. I will say that if you don't have anything prepared, prepare to hold an iPad or phone for your baby unless they know how to hold it themselves, because I had to prop the iPad up or hold it for him, and that was kind of a pain. So I wish I would have had some kind of device rigged up where he could watch the iPad without me holding it for him. I don't really know what the solution to that is, but maybe you have an idea of something you could do with that. Then I would say my number 1 tip would have to be unless your baby is small and lightweight and easygoing and young still, once they get to an age where they're squirmy and heavy and fussy and like to move and play, buy a seat. We flew a budget airline, so the seat was only $60 on the trip going. And it was worth every penny because I didn't have to worry about holding him. The seat was great. It was great having a seat for him. On the way back, like I told you before, I was so stressed out because I'm squeezed into this seat. There's somebody next to me. Chelsea's on this side, and we're trying to hold him, and he's fussing. He doesn't want to be held. He wants down. He doesn't understand why he can't get down. And it was just so stressful to try to manhandle him. He is 27 pounds, and so it was very, very stressful. So my biggest tip is, if you can afford it, buy the extra seat. I mean, if you have a little bitty baby that's just going to sleep anyway on your chest, I totally get it. But if your child is of any size and is active, my biggest tip is buy a seat. Take his car seat. It was no big deal to check the car seat. It was no big deal to check the stroller at the gate. You can take them all the way to the airplane door, and then you can drop that off. And then when you get off the plane, they bring it up right when you get off the plane. So it's not a big deal. I would say that if you are going to take your stroller or car seat and it's worth money, it's a nice one, unless it's just a cheap one that you've taken, buy for $15, go on Amazon.com and buy a stroller bag for the airport so that you protect, because we did have a couple of scratches. So make sure you protect your car seat and your stroller, unless you're just taking a cheap one just for the trip. All right, well, that is my tips for traveling with a baby / active baby. This was his first flight. Overall, he did really good, but I definitely know what I'm going to do next time that I didn't do this time, and I think I'm a little bit more prepared. So anyway, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, make sure you leave those down below. Make sure you subscribe and hit the thumbs up if you like this video, and we will see you next Saturday. You have a great week.